Living like an emperor without a throne. What does it truly mean to live like an emperor? Most of us, when we hear the word emperor, imagine gold, power, armies, and palaces. We picture marble halls and endless feasts. But Marcus Aurelius, the most famous philosopher king in history, would laugh at that image. To him, being an emperor had nothing to do with crowns or luxury. It had everything to do with the inner empire, the realm of the mind, the heart, and the soul. Marcus lived surrounded by wars, betrayals, illness, and the unbearable weight of ruling the most powerful empire on earth. Yet, in the middle of this chaos, he sat down each night and wrote in his journal. Not speeches, not orders, not political plans. He wrote reminders to himself. Gentle reminders to stay calm. To act with virtue. To not lose himself in anger, fear, or pride. These private notes became his meditations, one of the greatest works of wisdom humanity has ever preserved. And here is the striking truth: he didn't write them for us. He wrote them for himself, as medicine for the soul. Think about that. The Emperor of Rome, with the world at his feet, still wrestled with anxiety, grief, self-doubt, and the chaos of daily life. Just like you and me. The difference is that he built tools, habits, and principles to face those storms without being broken. He built an inner fortress that no betrayal, no loss, and no fear could conquer. That's what it means to live like an emperor. And this is where the real secret lies. You don't need a palace to rule like Marcus Aurelius. You don't need armies or titles. You don't need wealth or fame. What you need is a philosophy, a way of living that teaches you to stand strong when life falls apart, to find peace when the world is loud, and to lead yourself with dignity and courage. That is Stoicism. Let me ask you, how often do you feel pulled in every direction, by stress, by people's opinions, by your own restless thoughts? How often do you let small annoyances ruin your entire day? A harsh word, a rejection, a minor failure, they eat at you. Marcus would remind you, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So imagine for a moment, what if you could walk through your day like an emperor walks through his palace? Calm. Focused. Untouchable by gossip or insult. Determined in purpose, yet gentle in action. Strong enough to carry your burdens, yet wise enough not to pick up what does not belong to you. Wouldn't that change everything? That's exactly what we're going to explore in this journey together. 12 lessons from Marcus Aurelius. 12 keys to unlock unshakable peace, discipline, and strength. Each lesson is like a stone in the foundation of your inner empire. Miss one, and the walls may crumble. Build them all, and you create a fortress no storm can destroy. These aren't abstract ideas from dusty books. They are practical methods for living today. For dealing with anxiety, with criticism, with endless distractions, with the constant noise of modern life. Marcus faced political rivals and barbarian invasions. We face deadlines, financial struggles, and the pressure to prove ourselves. Different worlds, same human struggles. And the Stoic answers remain timeless. So here is my invitation to you: stay with me until the end. Don't drift away halfway. Because this is not entertainment, this is survival. This is wisdom that can transform the way you wake up in the morning, the way you respond to setbacks, the way you face fear, and the way you close your eyes at night in peace. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." These 12 lessons are your blueprint for that. Not to debate, not to admire from a distance, but to live and embody. So let us begin. Let us step into the shoes of the emperor who ruled the world, yet never forgot that the hardest kingdom to govern is the kingdom within. And if Marcus could build unshakable peace in the chaos of Rome, then so can you, in the chaos of today. Lesson 1. Master your thoughts, rule your life. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Think about that for a moment. Not your job. Not your bank account. Not even your relationships. He said your happiness depends on your thoughts. If that's true, then mastering your thoughts is nothing less than mastering your entire life. But here's the challenge: most people never truly examine their thoughts. They wake up, and immediately, their minds are flooded with noise. Worries about bills. Regrets from yesterday. Anxiety about the future. Annoyance with traffic. Resentment towards someone at work. Before breakfast is even finished, their minds have become a battlefield. Have you ever noticed how a single negative thought can ruin your whole day? Someone cuts you off in traffic, and suddenly you're replaying the moment for hours. You make a small mistake, and instead of moving on, you replay it like a broken record. That's the power of thoughts left uncontrolled. They dictate your emotions, your actions, and your entire sense of reality. Marcus understood this. Surrounded by wars, betrayals, and endless political stress, he realized that if he didn't control his thoughts, he would be consumed by them. So he trained himself to pause, reflect, and ask, is this thought useful? Does it serve me? Or is it simply dragging me into anger, fear, or despair? This is the first lesson of living like an emperor. You must become the guardian of your mind. Imagine your mind as a city. If the gates are left open, anyone can wander in: thieves, gossipers, enemies. But if you guard the gates carefully, only what strengthens the city is allowed to enter. Your thoughts are no different. Every day, you must choose which ones you allow in. Do you let in envy, bitterness, and fear? Or do you allow courage, patience, and gratitude? Here's a practical exercise. The next time a negative thought enters your mind, don't just let it take over. Pause. Question it. Ask yourself, is this within my control? Does this thought help me act with strength or virtue? If the answer is no, then release it. Replace it with something constructive. Marcus often reminded himself that most of what upsets us is not reality, but our interpretation of reality. Think of two people walking in the rain. One curses the sky and grows angry. The other smiles, takes it as refreshment, and keeps walking. Same rain, two completely different experiences. What changed? Not the rain, but the thoughts about the rain. Now reflect for yourself. How many times has your own mind made a small problem feel enormous? How often have you let a fear, a worry, or an insult take control of your entire mood? And more importantly, what would your life look like if you trained your mind to resist those traps? Living like an emperor doesn't mean avoiding difficulty. It means building an inner fortress strong enough to withstand it. And that begins with thought discipline. Control your mind, and you'll find that the storms of life can rage all around you, yet you remain calm, clear, and unbroken. So let this be your first step: guard the gates of your mind. Refuse to let every passing worry or insult enter. Choose thoughts that make you stronger, not weaker. Because the truth is, once you master your thoughts, you've already taken the throne. Lesson 2: the discipline of accepting what you cannot control. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, plagues, betrayal, and the constant weight of being emperor. Yet in his private writings, which we know today as meditations, he constantly reminded himself of one truth: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Think about how much energy we waste on things we can't control. We complain about the weather. We stress about what people think of us. We replay conversations, wondering what we could have said differently. We fear what might happen tomorrow. But here's the question Marcus would want you to ask yourself: does this lie within my control? Most of the time, the answer is no. And yet, we allow these things to dominate our peace of mind. It's like trying to stop the ocean with your hands: exhausting, impossible, and foolish. The Stoic emperor knew that serenity comes from a radical shift in perspective. Instead of fighting what you cannot change, you accept it, adapt to it, and focus on what's left in your control: your actions, your attitude, and your choices. Imagine this: a storm is approaching at sea. One captain screams at the clouds, curses the wind, and wastes his energy raging against the inevitable. Another captain calmly studies the storm, secures his ship, and guides it with discipline. Who survives? The one who accepts reality and acts within it. Marcus Aurelius lived with this mindset every day. When plague spread through Rome, he did not waste time asking why it happened or wishing it away. He accepted it as part of nature, part of fate, and instead asked, "What can I do? How can I lead my people through this with courage?" That is the emperor's mindset: calm acceptance, followed by decisive action. Here's a practical challenge. The next time something frustrates you, traffic, delays, criticism, weather, unexpected change, pause and ask yourself, is this within my control? If not, release it. Why fight against the immovable? Instead, redirect your energy toward what you can do: patience, preparation, resilience, kindness. Marcus believed that fighting fate was madness, but aligning yourself with it was wisdom. To him, everything that happened was not a punishment, but a chance to practice virtue. If someone insults you, it's a chance to practice patience. If you face loss, it's a chance to practice resilience. If life changes suddenly, it's a chance to practice adaptability. This perspective transforms suffering into strength. Instead of being crushed by difficulties, you are trained by them. Like a blacksmith's fire hardens the sword, life's challenges harden your character if you meet them with acceptance instead of resistance. Ask yourself, how much of my stress comes not from events themselves, but from my refusal to accept them? How different would my life feel if I stopped wrestling with what I cannot change, and instead mastered my response to it? Marcus Aurelius reminds us, fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling. You can resist reality and be dragged through life, or you can walk with dignity, willing to face whatever comes. That is the discipline of an emperor. So let this be your second lesson: stop fighting battles you cannot win. Stop wasting your peace on what lies beyond your reach. Instead, embrace the power of acceptance. Align yourself with reality, and you will find an inner calm so unshakable, it feels like ruling from within a fortress. Lesson 3: The power of self-discipline. Marcus Aurelius ruled the largest empire of his time, commanding armies, managing politics, and carrying the hopes of millions. Yet in his journals, he constantly wrote about something that seems far smaller: self-discipline. Why? Because he understood that the greatest empire a person can rule is not Rome, but their own mind and desires. Marcus often reminded himself, a man is worth as much as what he is concerned with. What you choose to focus on, what you allow to control you, that is your true master. If you are ruled by impulses, laziness, fear, or desire, then you are a slave, even if you sit on a throne. But if you govern yourself with discipline, then you are free, even in chains. Think about it. How often do we sabotage our own potential because we lack discipline? We hit snooze instead of rising early. We chase comfort instead of growth. We complain about results but avoid the effort that creates them. Marcus knew this pattern well, which is why he wrote to himself every morning, at dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I must go to work, as a human being. This was not a casual thought, it was a battle cry. To Marcus, discipline was not about denying joy, but about training the mind to do what is right, not what is easy. He believed that pleasure without control makes you weak, but struggle embraced with courage makes you strong. Picture a soldier in the Roman legions. Without discipline, the army collapses, shields fall, formations break, fear spreads. With discipline, the same army becomes unstoppable, even against impossible odds. Marcus saw his own life the same way. Without daily discipline, the empire of the self falls apart. Here's the truth: every act of discipline, no matter how small, is a declaration of freedom. When you say no to distractions, when you rise early, when you do the work even when you don't feel like it, you are proving that you are not a servant to weakness. You are building inner strength brick by brick. Ask yourself, What would my life look like if I truly mastered myself? If I stopped giving in to every urge, every excuse, every temptation? Would I be more focused, stronger, happier? The Stoics would say yes, because discipline is the foundation of all virtue. Without it, wisdom is wasted, courage is fleeting, and justice is weak. With it, every other virtue becomes possible. Marcus Aurelius was emperor, but he lived simply. He slept on a soldier's cot, ate modest meals, and often reminded himself not to be seduced by luxury. Why? Because he wanted to rule himself before ruling others. He wanted his character, not his crown, to be his source of strength. You don't need to be emperor to practice this. Discipline shows up in the smallest choices. Do you rise with purpose or waste your morning? Do you let anger speak for you, or do you control your words? Do you feed your mind with wisdom, or distract it endlessly with noise? Remember this: the undisciplined life is slavery. The disciplined life is freedom. Marcus understood this truth deeply, and it is one of the reasons his writings still inspire us centuries later. So let this be your third lesson: cultivate self-discipline as your daily shield. Train your mind to obey your reason, not your impulses. Because when you master yourself, no emperor, no army, no storm of fate can ever truly conquer you. Lesson 4: the value of time. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor, understood something most of us forget every single day: time is the most precious resource we will ever own. Money, possessions, titles, all of these can be gained or lost. But time, once spent, is gone forever. In his Meditations, Marcus wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." These were not just words, they were a reminder to himself that every sunrise was a gift and every hour was an opportunity. The Emperor of Rome, with power beyond imagination, still woke up reminding himself that he might not live to see tomorrow. Now ask yourself, do you live like that? Or do you live as though your days are infinite, wasting hours scrolling through distractions, feeding on worry, drowning in procrastination? The truth is, most of us act as if time will stretch endlessly before us. But Marcus knew better. He understood that to waste time is not just careless, it is tragic. Because time is not just minutes on a clock. Time is life itself. Every moment spent in anger, in idleness, in regret, is a moment you will never get back. Think about how emperors were expected to live, surrounded by luxury, ceremonies, endless obligations. Yet Marcus stripped all of that away in his private reflections. He wrote not about palaces or power, but about the fleeting nature of life. He reminded himself that soon he would be gone, and so would everyone around him. The only thing that would remain was whether he lived with purpose and virtue. So how do we apply this lesson? Begin by becoming ruthless about your time. Ask yourself throughout the day, is this worth my life? Because every choice you make, to read, to complain, to create, to waste, is a trade. You are trading a piece of your life, a piece of your limited existence, for whatever you choose in that moment. Imagine a merchant at the market. He doesn't give away gold coins for nothing. He weighs each transaction carefully. Yet we, with something far more valuable than gold, our time, throw it away without thought. Marcus challenges us to stop, to treat time as sacred. But here's the paradox: valuing time doesn't mean rushing frantically, filling every second with noise. The Stoic way is not about constant busyness. It is about intention. To choose carefully how you spend your hours, aligning them with your values, with what truly matters. Marcus himself often spoke about doing less, but doing it better. He wrote, "If you seek tranquility, do less. Or rather, do what's essential." Which brings a double satisfaction: less time wasted, and more focus on what truly matters. That's a lesson most of us need desperately today. So, what if you lived with this mindset for just 1 week? What if you treated each day as if it might be your last? Would you waste less? Would you complain less? Would you finally take action on the things that actually matter? This is the Emperor's challenge to you. Protect your time with the same ferocity that you protect your health or your possessions. Because in the end, it is the foundation of all things. Wealth can vanish. Fame fades. Even empires collapse. But once your time is gone, it is gone forever. So let this be your fourth lesson: live as though time is short, because it is. Guard it, use it wisely, and you will live not only like an emperor, but like a free and fulfilled human being. Lesson 5. Control what you can, release what you cannot. One of Marcus Aurelius' deepest insights was also one of the simplest. We waste enormous energy fighting battles that can never be won, the battles against what lies outside our control. In his meditations, Marcus wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Imagine that, the Emperor of Rome, surrounded by wars, plagues, betrayals, and political turmoil, reminding himself that the only true kingdom worth ruling is the one within his own mind. Think about your own life for a moment. How much of your stress, anger, or anxiety comes from things you cannot control? Maybe it's the traffic jam that makes you late. Maybe it's the market crash that wipes out your savings. Maybe it's the cruel words of another person. We spend hours, sometimes days, replaying these things, as if worrying could bend reality to our will. But it never does. Marcus understood that this obsession with the uncontrollable is the root of much human suffering. When you fight against what you cannot change, you lose twice, once because of the event itself, and again because of your refusal to let it go. But here's the Stoic shift. What if you decided to release it? What if, instead of giving your energy to things beyond your reach, you focused only on the sphere where your influence is absolute, your own thoughts, choices, and actions? This is the Emperor's wisdom. Freedom is not found in changing the world, but in mastering how you respond to it. Imagine a storm at sea. The sailor cannot control the wind or the waves. He cannot demand calm waters. But he can control his sails, his steering, his focus. By mastering those, he can survive the storm, sometimes even use it to his advantage. Life is no different. Marcus faced famine, disease, the betrayal of friends, even the death of children. These were pains he could not erase. Yet instead of cursing fate, he turned inward. He asked himself, "Can I act with justice, courage, self-control, and wisdom, even in this?" If the answer was yes, then the outcome no longer mattered. His virtue was intact, and that was enough. Now ask yourself, how often do you let things beyond your control poison your inner peace? A stranger cuts you off in traffic, and suddenly, you carry that anger for hours. A boss criticizes your work unfairly, and you replay the scene over and over, long after it's ended. You cannot stop people from being rude. You cannot stop markets from falling. You cannot stop storms from coming. But you can stop them from ruling your mind. The Stoic way is not passive. It's not about surrendering in weakness. It's about strength, the strength to know where your power begins and where it ends. Marcus would say, don't chain yourself to what is beyond your reach. Free yourself by focusing only on what is truly yours. So here is your challenge. The next time you face frustration, pause and ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, release it. Do not waste your soul on it. And if the answer is yes, then act with all the courage and wisdom you can. This is how you conquer life as Marcus did, not by ruling nations, but by ruling yourself. Because when you let go of what you cannot control, you gain something greater, unshakable inner peace. Lesson 6. The Power of Perspective. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it." Few lessons carry as much weight as this one. He was teaching us that the way we see the world is more important than the world itself. Two people can face the exact same challenge and live completely different lives because of one thing: perspective. Imagine two soldiers in the same battle. One sees only danger, chaos, and despair. The other sees an opportunity to prove courage, loyalty, and strength. Same situation, two realities. Why? Because perspective creates reality. Now think about your own daily struggles. Do you see obstacles as personal attacks from the universe? Or do you see them as training grounds for your character? Marcus believed that life is less about what happens and more about what meaning you assign to it. And here lies the secret: if you control your perspective, you control your experience of life. Let's go deeper. Picture a rainstorm. You're walking to an important meeting, and suddenly the sky opens. Most people groan, curse the weather, and carry resentment into the rest of the day. But what if you shifted perspective? The rain becomes not an enemy, but a teacher of patience, of acceptance, of resilience. Maybe even a reminder that nature is alive, powerful, and beyond your control. Same rain. New meaning. Less misery. Marcus himself faced unimaginable burdens, plagues that killed millions, wars on the empire's borders, endless political treachery. Any man could have seen these as crushing tragedies. But Marcus wrote instead, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, what blocks your path can become your path, if you choose to see it that way. This is the emperor's mindset. He trained himself to ask, how else can I view this? What perspective will serve me rather than destroy me? This is the tool that turned obstacles into lessons, enemies into teachers, and pain into power. Think about how often we sabotage ourselves by clinging to the darkest perspective. A failed job interview becomes proof of worthlessness. A breakup becomes proof that love is impossible. A mistake becomes proof that we are doomed to fail again. But Marcus shows us another path. What if that failed interview is not rejection, but redirection? What if that heartbreak is not the end, but the doorway to a stronger self? What if mistakes are not condemnation, but education? Here's a practical challenge for you. The next time something shakes your peace, stop and ask, what else could this mean? Could it be training? Could it be a lesson? Could it even be a hidden blessing? You will be amazed at how quickly your suffering shifts when you choose a higher perspective. Remember, your perspective is the lens through which you experience reality. Change the lens, and you change the world. Marcus Aurelius lived in a brutal, uncertain age, yet he found wisdom, calm, and even joy by mastering this one principle. If he could do it as Emperor of Rome, surrounded by turmoil, then so can you. So let me ask you now, what storm in your life are you magnifying through a negative lens? And what would happen if you shifted your perspective today? Lesson 7. Practice voluntary hardship. Marcus Aurelius, like other Stoics, believed that true strength comes not from comfort, but from training the mind and body to endure difficulty willingly. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But here's the hidden truth: you only discover that power when you step deliberately into discomfort. Think about it. Modern life is built to remove hardship. We sleep in warm beds, eat whenever we want, and avoid almost all physical struggle. Yet Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man on earth, deliberately practiced hardship. He slept on the floor at times, reminded himself daily that life is fragile, and trained his mind to accept hunger, cold, and pain without complaint. Why? Because he knew that comfort weakens, while hardship forges. Now ask yourself, how can you expect to stand firm when life suddenly throws real storms at you, if you've never trained in the rain? The emperor's wisdom was simple: expose yourself voluntarily to the little discomforts, so the big ones won't break you. Let's break it down with examples. Imagine choosing to fast for a day. At first, hunger gnaws at you, your stomach rumbles, and you feel irritable. But then you realize, you are fine. Hunger passes. You discover strength you didn't know you had. Or think of taking a cold shower. For a few moments, every nerve screams. But then calm enters, because you've proven to yourself that you can remain steady in discomfort. These practices are not about punishment. They are about freedom. If you can endure hunger, cold, fatigue, criticism, or rejection, then the world loses its chains over you. Marcus lived through plagues, betrayals, and the constant threat of invasion. But he didn't just wait for hardship to come, he trained for it. This is why, even when he was surrounded by chaos, he wrote words filled with serenity, clarity, and wisdom. His voluntary hardships made involuntary hardships less frightening. Consider this: the athlete doesn't train only on the day of the competition. The warrior doesn't pick up his sword only when the battle begins. They prepare long before. Life, too, is a battlefield. Voluntary hardship is your training ground. Now, here's a question for you. When was the last time you deliberately chose the harder path, not because you had to, but because you wanted to grow? Did you wake up early when you could have slept in? Did you choose silence instead of lashing out? Did you save money instead of indulging in instant pleasure? These small hardships are seeds of inner strength. If you avoid all discomfort, then the first challenge life throws at you will feel unbearable. But if you practice hardship, the storms will still come, only now, you will meet them with a steady heart. So tomorrow, try this: skip a meal, take a walk in the cold without complaining, put away your phone for hours, or resist an unnecessary luxury. Each act is a message to yourself: I am stronger than my cravings. I am greater than my comfort. I can endure more than I thought. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that hardship is not the enemy. Fear of hardship is. When you choose to embrace small struggles, you become unshakable in the face of great ones. So I'll leave you with this reflection: are you preparing for life's inevitable battles, or are you waiting, untrained, hoping they never come? The emperor within you is built not in ease, but in challenge. Lesson 8: The importance of serving others. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire in the world, yet he never saw leadership as a throne for his ego. Instead, he wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." This single line carries a timeless truth: our well-being is inseparable from the well-being of others. To live like an emperor, you must not live only for yourself, but serve a purpose greater than your own comfort. Ask yourself, when was the last time you acted not for gain, but for the good of someone else? This is where real strength begins. Marcus Aurelius knew that an emperor's greatness was measured not by how many bowed before him, but by how many were lifted by him. His daily writings remind us that life is not about isolation or selfishness, but about contribution. Service does not mean ruling an empire or leading armies. It begins in the smallest of ways. Helping a friend who is struggling, listening without judgment, or offering encouragement when someone is drowning in doubt, these are acts of greatness. They may not earn statues in your honor, but they shape the world in ways unseen yet powerful. Marcus lived in constant turmoil, plagues sweeping Rome, wars at its borders, and endless political schemes within the palace. Yet, in the midst of this chaos, he never abandoned his duty to the people. He did not complain that life was unfair, nor did he escape into luxury. Instead, he reminded himself, "At dawn, when you rise unwillingly, let this thought be present: I am rising to do the work of a human being." That work was not about feeding his ego. It was about service. Here's the paradox: by serving others, you strengthen yourself. When you support, encourage, or uplift someone, you're also training your own discipline, compassion, and patience. You're reminding yourself that life isn't just about chasing pleasure or avoiding pain. It's about being useful, reliable, and steady. Think of your daily life. You may not wear a crown or sit on a throne, but every interaction is a chance to serve. Do you bring calm to a heated situation? Do you offer honesty when others spread gossip? Do you give kindness where bitterness is the default? These choices make you stronger. Now reflect: what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? Will people remember you as someone who only sought comfort, or as someone who brought light to others? Marcus Aurelius will be remembered for centuries not only because he was emperor, but because he led with wisdom and compassion. Even today, when we read his meditations, we hear not the voice of a ruler seeking glory, but of a man reminding himself, do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good. Service, therefore, is not optional. It is the essence of living like an emperor. So tomorrow, serve in some way. Call someone who feels forgotten. Encourage someone who doubts themselves. Be patient where you would usually snap. Remember that these small acts are not small at all, they are how we rise above the noise of selfishness and live lives of true meaning. Because in the end, Marcus Aurelius teaches us this, greatness is not built in palaces, but in the daily choice to serve others with strength and humility. So ask yourself now, am I building a life centered only on myself, or am I contributing to the hive that sustains us all? The answer will define whether you live small or live like an emperor. Lesson 9. Control what you can, accept what you cannot. Marcus Aurelius lived surrounded by turmoil, wars at the empire's borders, political betrayal inside the palace, and even the devastating Antonine plague that killed millions. Yet through all this, he never allowed despair to consume him. Why? Because he mastered one of the most liberating Stoic truths: focus only on what is within your control, and calmly accept what is not. In his meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This isn't just ancient poetry. It's a lifeline. How often do we exhaust ourselves worrying about things we cannot change? The weather, the economy, the opinions of others, the past that cannot be undone. We pour energy into shadows we can never command. Marcus reminds us that this is a waste. Instead, true power lies in drawing a line. Here are the things I can control: my thoughts, my actions, my character, my attitude. Beyond that line lies everything else, and those things I must release. This does not mean becoming passive or careless. It means being wise enough to direct your energy only where it matters. Ask yourself, how much of your stress comes from trying to change the unchangeable? Maybe you replay a painful memory, hoping it could have turned out differently. Maybe you obsess over what people think of you. Maybe you're frustrated by things completely beyond your reach: politics, society, or fortune. But imagine the relief if you could simply say, this I can influence, this I cannot. And I will not waste my soul fighting shadows. Marcus Aurelius did not have an easy life. His reign was marked by nearly constant conflict. But instead of crumbling, he practiced acceptance. When plague swept Rome, he did not curse the gods. He focused on supporting the people, ensuring stability, and living with dignity. That is the essence of Stoic strength, clarity in chaos. Let's bring this into your daily life. Imagine you're stuck in traffic. Anger rises, stress builds. But can you control the cars? Can you command the red light to change? No. What you can control is your breathing, your attitude, your choice to use that time for reflection or calm instead of rage. That choice is freedom. Or think of a harsh criticism from someone you barely know. You cannot control their words, but you can control how much power you give them. Do you let it pierce your peace, or do you remember Epictetus' teaching? It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. By practicing this division, control what you can, accept what you cannot, you build resilience. You stop wasting energy on the impossible and invest fully in what is possible. And this investment pays off: stronger habits, calmer reactions, and an unshakable core. But acceptance is not resignation. Marcus never said, do nothing. He said, do what is within your power with virtue and excellence. The rest, let it pass. Acceptance is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is courage. It is knowing that you cannot command the storm, but you can command your ship. So here's a question for you. Where in your life are you fighting battles you can never win? And what could you do if you stopped and focused only on what you truly control? The emperor's lesson is clear. Those who waste their strength resisting the uncontrollable will always feel defeated. Those who focus on their own mind, their own choices, their own character will always live like emperors, even without a crown. So take this truth with you today. Control what you can, accept what you cannot, and you will be untouchable. Lesson 10. The power of perspective. Marcus Aurelius believed that life's struggles are rarely as terrible as our minds make them out to be. He understood something profound. The way we frame reality in our minds determines whether we suffer or stand strong. His words echo across time. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Think about it. Two people can face the same storm, yet one feels crushed while the other feels challenged. What makes the difference? Not the storm itself, but the perspective through which they see it. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to step back, reframe, and see every hardship as either a lesson, a test, or an opportunity for growth. Let's consider a simple example. You wake up to rain on a day you planned something outdoors. One perspective: frustration, disappointment, even bitterness. Another perspective: a chance to rest, to enjoy reflection indoors, to see beauty in the rainfall. The same reality, but two entirely different experiences. Which one you choose is in your hands. Marcus lived during times of war, betrayal, and plague. But instead of seeing these as signs of despair, he reframed them as his duty, his opportunity to practice justice, courage, and resilience. When armies threatened Rome, he saw not just danger but his chance to embody strength for his people. When the plague devastated the empire, he saw not only suffering but also the call to compassion and leadership. This is the Stoic art of perspective. Ask yourself, what story am I telling myself about this challenge? Is it a tragedy that makes me powerless? Or is it a trial that forges me into someone stronger? Modern psychology echoes this ancient wisdom. Studies on resilience show that people who reframe challenges as opportunities recover faster from setbacks, experience less stress, and often outperform those who sink into victimhood. The Stoics knew this long before science confirmed it. Here's a practice inspired by Marcus. When faced with a difficulty, pause and ask, is this truly bad, or is it just unpleasant? Could there be hidden good within this? Write it down. Journal about it. Many times you'll discover that the terrible event is not so terrible after all. Sometimes it is even a blessing in disguise. Let's go deeper. Think of a betrayal by a friend. Painful, yes. But perspective can transform it. You see their weakness, and you learn the priceless lesson of who truly deserves your trust. Or consider losing a job. At first, fear and shame flood in. But with perspective, it can become the doorway to a new path, one that better aligns with your strengths and purpose. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of mortality, of how short life really is. By remembering that time is fleeting, he reframed small annoyances into insignificance. Why rage at petty insults when in the vastness of time they are dust? Why complain about trivial setbacks when the days of your life are so precious? Perspective turns mountains into pebbles, burdens into stepping stones. Ask yourself right now, what challenge in your life feels overwhelming, and how could a shift in perspective lighten its weight? Could you see it not as an obstacle but as training, preparing you for something greater? This is why the Stoics compared life to a play. You may not control the role you are given, but you can decide how well you perform it. Perspective allows you to play your part with dignity, no matter the script. Marcus Aurelius teaches us, you cannot always change reality, but you can always change how you see it. And in that shift, everything changes: your strength, your peace, your happiness. So the Emperor's command to us is clear: master your perspective, and you master your life. Lesson 11. Live in accord with nature and duty. Marcus Aurelius believed that peace comes from harmony, harmony with yourself, with others, and with the natural order of the universe. For him, life was not about chasing every fleeting desire or bending the world to his will, but about aligning with what he called nature, the larger design of existence. He wrote, "Always bear in mind that the universe loves nothing so much as to change the things which are and to make new ones like them." To Marcus, this meant accepting that life flows in cycles, growth and decay, gain and loss, joy and pain. Fighting against these natural rhythms only creates suffering. Flowing with them, however, brings serenity. But Marcus didn't see living according to nature as passivity. Quite the opposite. He believed that human beings, as rational and social creatures, had duties to fulfill. Just as bees are meant to build hives and rivers are meant to flow, people are meant to use reason, pursue virtue, and contribute to their community. This was Marcus's compass as emperor. He could have indulged in the pleasures of power, endless luxuries, comfort, or avoidance of responsibility. Instead, he saw his role as a sacred duty, a task assigned by nature itself. Every decision he made, even the most painful, was filtered through this lens. Does this align with virtue? Does this serve the greater good? Think about how this applies today. Many of us feel lost because we try to live against our nature. We chase jobs that don't align with our values, relationships that drain us, or lifestyles that look good to others but don't feel right inside. Marcus would tell us, step back. Ask yourself, what am I really made for? What duties are mine by nature? Living with duty does not mean living without freedom. Paradoxically, it creates freedom. When you align your actions with your nature and your principles, decision-making becomes simpler. You no longer waste energy chasing what doesn't matter. You no longer agonize over choices that contradict your values. You act with clarity, because you know your role. Marcus Aurelius practiced this even when it cost him personally. During plagues, he stayed in Rome when others fled. During wars, he endured the cold and hardship of the front lines alongside his soldiers. He didn't see these sacrifices as unfair burdens but as his natural duty. That perspective freed him from resentment and gave him inner peace. So how do we apply this in our lives? Start with reflection. Journal about your strengths, your responsibilities, and the values you hold dearest. Ask yourself, am I living in line with these, or am I betraying them for comfort, fear, or approval? Another exercise is to observe the natural flow of life around you. Notice how seasons change, how everything rises and falls, how nothing resists the passage of time. Let that teach you acceptance. Just as nature moves without resistance, so too can you move through life with grace, if you stop fighting what is inevitable and focus on fulfilling your duty in the present moment. Marcus knew that when you live in accordance with nature and duty, life simplifies. You no longer measure success by wealth, status, or applause, but by whether you acted with integrity, fulfilled your responsibilities, and stayed true to your role in the grand design. So let this lesson remind you, your purpose is not to control everything but to live your role well. To align with the flow of nature. To honor your duties, to yourself, to others, and to the world. In that harmony, you will discover strength, clarity, and unshakable peace. Final lesson, the impermanence of all things and the emperor's closing wisdom. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself of one sobering truth: everything is temporary. The glory of Rome, the power of emperors, the applause of crowds, even his own breath, all of it destined to fade. He would write, Alexander the Great and his mule driver both died, and the same thing happened to both. To Marcus, remembering impermanence was not depressing, it was liberating. When you realize that every possession, every moment, and every relationship is fleeting, you stop clinging. You stop wasting energy on jealousy, on grudges, on endless complaints about what life has taken from you. Instead, you begin to cherish the present moment. You learn to love what is here now, because you know it will not last forever. This was Marcus's ultimate lesson: do not live as though you had endless tomorrows. You don't. None of us do. That's why every action matters. Every choice is a stroke of paint on the canvas of your short life. If you waste it in bitterness, envy, or fear, you dishonor the gift you've been given. But if you use it to live with virtue, courage, and compassion, you leave behind a legacy of strength and peace that endures long after you are gone. So let us draw together the wisdom of these lessons. From clarity of purpose, to self-mastery, to embracing discomfort, to fulfilling duty, all of Marcus Aurelius's guidance points to one thing: a life lived with intention. A life where you are not tossed around by emotions, by critics, or by the chaos of the world. A life where you act as an emperor, not over others, but over yourself. Ask yourself right now, if this were my last day, would I be proud of how I lived it? This is not a morbid thought. It is the key to freedom. If you answer yes, then continue. If you answer no, then let today be the day you change course. Because Marcus would tell you, the power is in this moment, not in the future that may never come. And so, the emperor's voice echoes across time, not in marble statues or faded scrolls, but in the choices you make right now. Choose to be steady when others are shaken. Choose to live by principle when others chase distractions. Choose to act with love, even in a world that often forgets it. That is how you live like an emperor. Not by ruling nations, but by ruling yourself. So as we close this journey, I invite you to pause. Reflect. Which of these lessons speaks to you the loudest? Which one will you begin practicing today? Write it down. Share it in the comments. Let's learn together. And if you found value in this path of Stoic wisdom, stay with us, subscribe, join the community, and keep walking this road of resilience and purpose. Because life is short. But in its shortness, there is immense beauty. And if you live each day as Marcus Aurelius did, grounded, intentional, unshaken, then no matter how many days you are given, you will have lived like an emperor.